Salhut, who joins us from Amman, Jordan, because the Palestinian Authority has suspended Al Jazeera's operations in the occupied West Bank. Hamdah, what more are you hearing about these latest settler attacks in the occupied West Bank?
Well, since the beginning of the year, just 10 days ago, Folly, we're already looking at nearly 20 settler attacks on Palestinians. And 2024, in fact, was the highest year on record recorded by the United Nations when it came to settler attacks on Palestinians. October of 2023 was the highest month in and of itself after Israel's war on Gaza had begun, with more than 230 attacks. And look, these attacks range from arson to destruction of property to physical assaults and even death. The UN says that this is now spiraling out of control, and oftentimes there is little to no consequences of these attacks. The Israeli army often protects the Israeli settlers, and there's little to no consequences. In fact, within the Israeli government, there have been a lot of issues in recent weeks for people who are high up within the police in the occupied West Bank who are essentially forging these so-called investigations they were conducting on Israeli settlers who were conducting attacks against Palestinians. That's caused a lot of commotion internally within Israeli politics. But again, very little to no consequences when it comes to the rising attacks on Palestinians.
Hamdah, thank you very much for that. Hamdah Salhut, live for us there in Amman, Jordan. Let's discuss all this further and the developments in Israel's war on Gaza with Menachem Klein now, who is a professor of political science at Barilan University, joining us from West Jerusalem. Thank you so much, Mr. Klein, for joining us once again. I wanted to touch on the situation in the West Bank there, the occupied West Bank that Hamdah was talking about. As we heard there, things spiraling out of control, it would seem, since the beginning of the year with no consequences. Is this intentional from the Israeli government?
I came to the conclusion that yes, it is made by intention. The radical settlers push to evoke a confrontation, all-out confrontation in the West Bank. And use the methods that Israel uses in Gaza Strip to implement in the West Bank what Israel does in the Gaza Strip. Actually, under this government, since they came to office 2 years ago, 2 years plus, more than 80 new settlements outposts were established by this government in areas that in Area C that are open for the Palestinians. They want to take over Area C, and recently also in Area B, few outposts were established. In Area B, according to Oslo, it is forbidden. So Israeli settlers wants to gain control, to totally destroy what remained from Oslo agreement. And this will lead, actually, we see that it leads to Palestinian armed resistance and the conflicts between the PA police and the armed groups, Palestinian armed groups, and conflicts between the Israeli army and the armed groups in northern West Bank.
You say, Mr. Klein, that the methods that are being used in the West Bank, in the occupied West Bank today, are similar to those that Israel has been using in the Gaza Strip. When you look at Gaza today, it's been leveled. I mean, we have a death toll, an official one from Palestinian medical sources of 46,000, but those are conservative estimates, according to this latest report in the Lancet. What you have in Gaza today is a population that's been annihilated completely. What is Israel's ultimate objective there today, even as we hear that, the efforts are being made to reach some sort of a deal to release the captives and a ceasefire? What is ultimately Israel's objective in Gaza?
The radical settlers, the cabinet ministers, they declare that they want to flatten West Bank cities and expel their population. It is said by Smotrich, it's said by Ben Gvir and Knesset members. This is not rumors behind closed doors or whispers behind closed doors. It was made in public.
Right.
And what
No, I was asking you about
so,
Gaza this time. I mean, we've talked about the West Bank, but I wanted to know what the objective was as far as Gaza is concerned, because we've been hearing these reports that perhaps a deal could be reached soon with the President-elect Donald Trump's envoy for the region heading to Qatar, and talks about some positive steps being made there. Do you think a deal is likely?
Depends on what kind of a deal. If there will be a deal, it will be a pause in the war, not end of the war. Israel is unwilling to end the war, and probably Hamas agreed to have a break in fighting because Hamas came to the conclusion that for the long run, they can win over Israel through guerrilla war. And they absorbed more volunteers from those who are refugees from the Palestinians that Israel expelled, and anger young Palestinian generation members that they joined Hamas. They joined resistance. They not necessarily they agree with Hamas theology or policy, but they want to take revenge from Israel. If Hamas agrees to the temporary ceasefire, then it shows, I conclude from it, that Hamas aims for the long run, gave up this total ceasefire, end of the Israeli occupation of Gaza Strip, and started launching long-term guerrilla war.
Menachem Klein, thank you so much for talking to us. As always, good to get the Israeli perspective from you from Jerusalem there. Menachem Klein from Barilan University.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.